Hi, and welcome to this overview for your online class at Lake Tahoe Community College. Today I'm specifically focusing on some of the key policies that I have in my online classes to give you a better sense of what to watch out for early in the quarter. And as a reference point, in my Canvas shell, I have under the policies header a series of policies that range from information about academic dishonesty and plagiarism, use of technology, my no makeup policy, deadlines, word count, conduct code, and so forth. So what I want to do now then is to jump here into Canvas and take a little closer look at some of the policies. I'm doing this one video for all my classes, and though there could be some variation in terms of the specific policies, these are in general all the policies that I have in all my online classes. So I want to offer these to you today to give you a better sense of how to be successful in my online classes. Okay, so let me delve a little bit then into the specific policies for your online class. And these are really important, I think, just to lay out to give you at the beginning of the quarter, because I don't want there to be any discrepancies or any sense of confusion that you might have later in the quarter. Again, by enrolling in this class, you're responsible to abide by these policies. So the first of these, and I'll just go through, you can find these under the Policies tab on your class. This is the policy on academic dishonesty and plagiarism, and it's defined here, specifically it's about taking someone else's words, going to an online site, cutting and pasting those into an exam, an essay, a paper, a discussion post, etc. And this will vary with the kinds of assignments that you have in my class. I've caught these so many times by putting them into my plagiarism detection software programs. And again, it's a very serious offense. Plus, if you're writing discussion posts, everything needs to be in your own words, because ideally, if you're authentically working carefully on your classes, you'll take the information to heart, you'll process it, and you will reinterpret things and not just cut and paste things from the internet. In addition to the policy being stated here, I want to mention that in our college catalog found on the LTCC website, just under academics, you could click on catalog right there. You will also find the same policy on page 44. So this is part of actually a committee I chaired years ago, and we worked on this for quite some time just to get this very clear. And you can read through the whole policy. Again, it's very important in academia that we don't commit plagiarism. It happens. There have been professors and even college presidents who have plagiarized. And so it's a really big deal. And again, there's zero tolerance for that in this class. Okay, so we can look at the next policy, and you can do this on your own site as well by just clicking on the next button. This is not a policy per se. This is just stating that an online class involves technology, and if you have any questions, here's our DE coordinator's contact and so forth. The one thing I do want to say about this, and I make this pretty clear on the syllabus, is that in terms of my no late policies, my no makeup policies, that includes technology. And I've had situations where students have said they waited 15 minutes before something was due, and then Wi-Fi went down or there was a thunderstorm or whatever. That's part of planning for class. When I was a student, we actually didn't have the internet, but when an assignment was due, there were I didn't have any professors that allowed makeups either. So it's just something I've carried through all my programs as a student and now teaching for over 25 years. And so technology is part of what makes online education cool because it's flexible. But then if you don't plan appropriately and there's a computer outage or Wi-Fi goes down or whatever, I just want to state that there will not be makeups for any late work as a result of that. And this really ties in with policy 1.1. So let me just read this to you. Please understand this policy as it applies to the class, examinations, assignments, and any and all classwork may not be made up for credit under any circumstance with the exception of a verified doctor's note. Any other reasons for a makeup for work in the class, including but not limited to missed rides, weather, oversleeping, computer technology problems, vacations, flights, travel, work commitments, will not be considered legitimate reasons to make up work in this class. And I'm really not doing this to be difficult or anything like that. And I think I would ask you to consider the perspective if you ask me for a makeup and it's a non-legit reason. It's not a doctor's note. It's not a medical reason. And I give that to you, and there's 25 other students in the class, which there often is over 30 students in any of these classes. And maybe they had a situation, but because they read my policies, they realized like, well, I can't ask them. But wow, I really could have used that as well because I missed my flight and I couldn't get to a computer or whatever. What I'm essentially doing by giving you, the one student, a makeup or an excuse outside of the verified doctor's note, the verified medical reason, is I'm basically giving you an opportunity and punishing all the other students in the class. And no one ever thinks of it that way. They think of it as like, well, I'm going to try to talk him into it and let's see what he says. So again, you can try. I'm not trying to be difficult or anything like this, but I have standards, very high standards, and I'm not going to budge. And so if you ask me, I'll probably send you a link to this video and say, please listen to this because you knew this when you signed up for the class. Now, if it is legit, if you have a doctor's note, I will ask you, that's the one legitimate reason I'll give you a makeup for that, but for nothing else. And that's the end of it. That's policy 1.1. And I'm not going to say anything else about that. Again, it's very important. If you enroll in this class, we don't meet physically, so we have to have some standards, and this is the standard in this class. As well, I know other professors out there have different policies, but this is my class, and this is what will happen in my class. So I hope I'm clear on that. The next policy is on deadlines, and this will vary, so don't refer to this because your class could be different. But as I'm saying here, know the deadlines in the class. Don't ask me for extensions if you forget to turn in work. So as an example of that, in multiple places, I'm showing you a sample class here, but you have calendars and you also have information listed here where you can track what is due and when it's due. So it's your responsibility to do that. If that means setting up a calendar reminder, if that means setting up sticky notes on the fridge or whatever to remember this stuff, you have to do that. I will not be reminding you, although I do have announcements and so forth, but when exams and discussions and projects and other things are due, you need to be responsible to know when those deadlines are. Let me mention also word count. If there's a word count requirement, typically on discussion posts, just make sure that you do that. I have students that type discussion posts and then they're half the length that they're supposed to be. So it's really important to just make sure you have the appropriate word count and you commit that as part of your work in this class. This is referring to a conduct code, and basically what I'm trying to say is, I support debate and free speech in my classes, but I'm not going to accept bullying behavior either of the student or the instructor. The content that you share in any of my classes should be academic and critical approaches to the ideas. If you have a question in terms of what is appropriate or not, ask me first. Send me your proposed post and I'll let you know. In most cases, people in my courses display great behavior, but I won't tolerate non-great behavior. And so, as I've said, if I find something to be inappropriate or offensive, I'll ask you to fix it. After the first warning, I'll block you from the class. I'll initiate disciplinary proceedings as per the LTCC Student Code of Conduct. And again, that's in the catalog. And I'm sure this video sounds really punitive, but again, I'm trying to be very clear and precise about my expectations in the class. So again, there's a very lengthy list beginning on page 45 in the LTCC catalog talking about a lot of things that don't relate to this class. What would relate to this class is things like disruption, things of that nature, this kind of stuff here, expression which is obscene, libelous, or slanderous, or whatever. And this goes through all the procedures. This typically doesn't happen, and it's really good it doesn't happen because obviously it's pretty extreme, removal from class and so forth, and it goes on. There could be interim suspensions, short-term suspensions, long-term hearings, expulsion. Okay, so pages and pages of information about this. And the reason for this is not to try to be punitive, but as a college, we have to protect all our students. We have to protect our community. So again, it's pretty clearly laid out in the catalog. If you have questions, I'm not making this up. This is not part of something that I just created on my own. I've shared in some of my other classes, I have students who have actually written stuff like this. They didn't like some of the readings in the class, and so they started to write things like this. And that's unacceptable. Again, I'm trying to really nip this in the bud so that it doesn't happen in the future. I didn't have a video like this in the past, and maybe if I had, some of these kinds of comments would have been prevented, perhaps. Again, I do thank you for respecting fellow students and the instructor. In most cases, this is not an issue, but I want to be very clear in the first week just so you know the rules. As well, I try to keep myself to a high standard as I expect from you. We can work on that together. I will try to grade things within 48 hours of the due date and time. And I try to do that for discussion posts and also any quizzes, exams, any projects. Projects could take a little longer just depending on things, depending on what they are. By the way, if you need DRC accommodations, we have a very fine DRC resource center at Lake Tahoe Community College. Let me know if you want more information. You can visit the DRC site as well, which has information on philosophy, on testing, on everything like that. And they're very good in terms of accommodating students, and if you have any concerns, just let me know. Also, I want to let you know that in terms of the balance of class work, this varies with your class, but for the most part, what I want you to realize is that if there's a exam due, a project due, and discussions, then I want to have a balance between what you complete in the class. And so, in other words, if you had a class where you had 2 exams and discussion posts, and you just completed your exams, I actually will deduct, based on this rule here, points from your exams. And the reason for that is it's just my policy that you're not going to be able to pass a class with me by just showing up to take 2 exams, because that literally could be a couple of hours of work, and there's no way that is indicative of completing a good percentage of the balance of work in the class, the discussions, the exams, the projects, whatever. So just be aware of that policy. It also applies to your class. It's a little more specific in terms of what you have in your specific class. So those are all the policies I want to go over today. I know this sounds punitive. I know it sounds maybe at times harsh and like warnings in this kind of language, but I want to be very clear up front. I hope for 99.9% of students, this is not an issue. Again, if you have any concerns about this, if you have questions, if you want to talk to me more personally, just send me an email. The email address that I use is on the syllabus for your class. As well, you could use the inbox in Canvas to ask me some questions about any of these policies that you might have concerns about. Otherwise, I wish you good luck in your online class here at Lake Tahoe Community College. And as always, be sure to ask any questions as they come up in the class, whether it's about these policies specifically or about other aspects of the content and work in your online class. So good luck, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, I hope that helped explain a little bit about some of the policies in my online classes. Again, if you have any questions that come up, just let me know throughout the quarter. I want you to have a successful quarter with me in this online class, but I also want you to be aware up front of some of the rules that are evident in my class and the need to abide by those rules. So good luck in this class this quarter, and I hope to see you back on Canvas sometime soon.